Thanks for
No,
joining
you go
us
first.
for the second workshop in the Future of Blockchain University Hackathon. Today we have Abby here with us to deliver his workshop on how to build an app on Koii from zero to hero.
Hey folks, Abby from Koii here. Very excited to be back at another Encode hack. Favorite hack sponsors for sure. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. I'm sure that the lovely Encode team will take care of things. Otherwise, we will just get going. So the first thing is, if you want to get information about upcoming events and stuff like that, you can go to koii.global.com. Koii Global is basically our hackathon circuit spot. You'll see the nice fun Future of Blockchain event here. More coming soon. But I think we're just going to jump in to who is Koii and what is Koii. So just real quick, Koii is basically a deep in cloud compute network. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means we're a decentralized blockchain cloud compute network. So what we do is we take advantage of a bunch of like consumer hardware that exists around the world, like laptops, phones, spare servers, people who have old Bitcoin miners, basically anything you can think of, you can spin up into a node and you can supply the community with compute. So if you want to get in on that, and you're going to need to do that for your hackathon, if you go to koii.network, www.koii.network, you'll be able to find that link in Discord as well. If not, just ping me or someone from the Encode team, but it's also all in the Notion. You should be able to find these three little things right at the top here. For run, there's just two things you're going to want to do, the node and the faucet, and everything else you'll find under build under Koii. So we have our EZSandbox. I already have a tab open, but this is going to be our tutorial series that we're going to be going over. You can find our docs right here. I'll go over a bit about that too. We have video tutorials, and you can kind of look through those afterwards. And you can look at Koii Ocean if you want to see different projects on Koii. So you can obviously click the or the Get Started button as well, and that'll kind of take you to the Chrome extension, which will kind of give you a different onboarding flow. You can get free tokens if you go here and complete some quests, but we're just going to jump right into exactly what building on Koii looks like. So to download the node, you'll come to the node download page, and you can just click download node right here. I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a sec. But there's also the faucet where you can get some free tokens. Of course, for this hack, you might need more tokens than the free token supplier gives you. And sometimes the free token supplier struggles with authenticating users and stuff. So I just want to let you know that you can jump into the Discord at any time, and I'll be there to help give you tokens and gas and anything that you need to get through. Everybody will be able to get 200 Koii tokens, which should be more than enough to get you started. Of course, if you run into technical difficulties, just let me know, and we'll get you through any hurdles. So yeah, let's talk about the EZSandbox and what it's actually like to develop on Koii. So when you come to the EZSandbox page, you'll be able to click Start Your Lesson here, and it'll actually take you to a GitHub where you're actually going to be able to go through a bunch of lessons, and they're all interactive. And of course, you can always go to the Koii docs to sort of reference exactly what's happening. This Write Your Task Now will take you to the same place. If you want to mint your own token on Koii, it takes about 5 minutes. You just need to click this KPL token creator button. KPL is a similar standard to SPL, if you're aware, but basically, or ERC20. But basically what it means is that you can build tokens on Koii, and it's really easy, and they'll be your own. So I'll just go through that really quickly just so people can see. You'll need to choose your wallet file. That'll happen after you download the node. You'll get access to that file. It's in the EZSandbox, but again, I'm in Discord if you need help. You can get an image, or you can upload an image so that it has a fun little thing. Token name, token symbol, token description, and then you just go to mint token, and you can basically choose however many you'd like to mint. I think the limit is it's super high. And just to show you what something like that might look like, you can go to our blockchain explorer, and you can just show you an example of a token. It's called K-Webinar. We make it for our webinars. You can see the current supplies. This takes a total of 5 seconds to make, or 5 minutes to make, sorry. And you should be able to get to the races. Just wanted to bring this up because it's going to be a requirement of your submissions that you need your own KPL token. You can use the Koii token to make your task at first, but to get your submission through the door, you're going to need the KPL token. And if you run into any issues with that, again, just let me know in Discord. All right. We can get started with our little quick intro. Basically, the quick intro is just a bunch of docs on the most important things. For example, how to configure your task with the config YML, or how deployments might work. I'll be going through all this in today's little video. But if you ever need a reference point, you can always come back here. KPL tokens are right here too. But for now, we're just going to jump through lesson 1. And we're kind of going to show you exactly what a Koii task is and what running a task is like. So there's a bit about what is Koii and what is a Koii task. But really what we want to get to is to install the node. And the node's going to give you a bunch of different options on the left-hand side. And your wallet will be this little button right here. I'll zoom in. It'll look just like a key. You're going to want to remember that wallet address. It's basically going to be what you how you get tokens in and out of your account. You'll need some tokens. Again, you can get them from me. Within the Koii desktop node, you can run tasks. Tasks are things that other developers want you to run. And the more people that run these tasks, the greater your own miniature compute network gets. And you can basically use a bunch of different consumer laptops and latent hardware like phones to basically power your app. It's a really, really powerful tool, and I'll show you some examples at the end if we have time. So you can go through this part 1 to get a really good idea of what's going on in Koii. Also in part 1, we have a bunch of images and stuff that you can just search through to kind of get a quick idea of exactly what you're looking for. Something I did want to show real quick is the task flow. So all tasks on Koii work in 3 steps. Because it's a decentralized system, we can't just inherently trust that people on their other laptops are doing the work faithfully. So we have a round-based system, where in round 1, the system does the work. In round 2, your node or a desktop node will audit other desktop nodes and make sure that the work is valid. And I'll show you exactly what that is in a development standpoint. And then in the 3rd round, we're going to reward everyone. There is lesson 4 on how to deploy a task, but we'll go through that live too. I just want to skip to lesson 3 real quick because it's often really, really useful for users. Don't skip lesson 2, but right now I'm just going to show you. We have a simple crawler right here, and it actually comes with a config task YML pre-made, and also some pre-made utilities, and it kind of shows you exactly how to take advantage of these tools. And if you didn't know, whenever you're in GitHub, you can press the period key, and it'll actually set up a web editor so that you can go along with these sort of interactive tutorials. Now, none of this gets saved for too long. I don't recommend building your task in here, but if you're just going through the EZSandbox, it's a great tool to use. So you just got to log in, press play, and then you can, for example, go to our simple crawler, go to our task, go to task.js, and you'll be able to find a bunch of pre-made functions here. Or in the file utils, you'll find some more, and you can actually mess around with these and really explore what's going on, control clicking and stuff. So yeah, that's sort of the EZSandbox, but you have me here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little quick walkthrough of what building a task on Koii actually looks like. All right, let's jump into what it looks like to build a task on Koii. So for those of you who don't know, if you just want to clone a GitHub, you'll just open up your terminal here and you'll type in git clone space, and then the GitHub URL for our task template. You can find that task template in the Notion page that Encode has for you. If you need the link, I'm sure you can ask in chat, and you'll also be able to access it in Discord. What that's going to do is it's going to download this task template. After you do the git clone, you're going to want to cd, which changes your directory, into the task template. And then you're going to want to just hit yarn, and that's going to actually install all the packages. I went through that step here just because I didn't want you to have to sit through it. It takes a few minutes sometimes, especially on your internet connection. But what that's going to do is it's going to install all the appropriate node modules here, particularly at _Koii, so that you can get going. So building on Koii is really, really cool because it's entirely Web 2 friendly. You don't actually need to know anything about the blockchain. You don't need to know Rust. You don't need to know Solidity. And you don't really need to know the intricacies of a blockchain to get going. All you really need is two files and then one folder. And they're all here in the task template. The first one I'll go through really quickly is the config task.yml. So this is sort of the metadata that surrounds your task. You can see you can give it a task name. You can give it an author. Here we can give it a task name. We can say future of blockchain. Oop. And Avi from Koii. There is a markdown task description path where you can put in a nice markdown version of your task description. Or if you want, you can ignore that and you can just write something simple. Just make sure to get rid of this the task description markdown file, and it should default to this. Make sure that we're putting in our GitHub repos. This will be available in the task. For the purpose of this hackathon, we want to make sure that everybody has open source code so that everything's nice and visible, nice and clean. You can also give an image URL, an info URL. Info URL can be to your own website, for example, or it can be to the Koii Ocean page if you wanted to make something there. And then there comes the real task configuration. Leave the executable network as IPFS and leave the task audit program as main.js. You don't really need to mess around with that. If you recall, I just talked about round time. These are the variables that influence, or the parameters that influence your round time. So each integer here, so if I just put 1, that's equal to 1 slot. And you'll notice that a slot time is roughly 408 milliseconds. The easiest way to calculate that is say that 2 slots is 1 second. So if we have 1,500, we have about 750 seconds. That's about 11 minutes, or 12 minutes actually. Just make sure that your audit window and your submission window are at least 1/3 of your round time. Sometimes for testing, we want to make this very small so that we can have rapid round iteration so that you can test live and you don't have to continuously redeploy your task. The minimum stake amount is sort of a feature of Koii. We ask that you give something called proof of stake so that you can prove you're a good actor on the network. Stake is always going to be in the token that you use, which we'll get to in just a sec. But I suggest leaving this at 0.1 for your hackathon tasks, just to make things really easy. Next is the token type. Again, you can use Koii, which is our native token, or you can use KPL, which is our standard for making tokens. If you do that, you're going to need the token mint address. You'll get that from the token minting tool. It'll give it to you right there. It's really easy to find. If you ever lose it, you can always go to your Explorer or our Explorer, and you can just type in the token name. And again, I'll be in Discord to help you out with that. The total bounty amount per round is basically the amount that gets distributed, or the total bounty amount is actually all the tokens that you're going to use to fund your task. For your testing task, you can leave this at 10. And then the bounty amount per round is the amount that actually gets distributed. Again, I recommend leaving this at 0.1. Failed distributions is up to you. It's how many times someone can fail your task. I recommend leaving this at 3. It's just the best number overall. But if you have a good reason to make it higher, you totally can. There's really no harm or foul. You'll notice that space is an odd little parameter that you have here. But basically what space does is it gives you your task data size in megabytes. The amount of gas that you pay to deploy your task is directly related to the space. So for testing, keep this at 0.1, and then when you're ready to make your final submission, put it up to 1. If you run out of Koii tokens, just let me know. But I'll teach you how to run a testing tool so that you hopefully won't run out of Koii tokens. Then we have some requirement tags. You can largely ignore these 3. They're actually just sort of guidelines or suggestions for the system. But our tool is intelligent enough that it'll actually just take exactly what it needs. These are kind of just suggestions. Then you have task variables. Task variables can be whatever you want, and you can make as many as you'd like. So we'll make 2 for now, and we'll call this email, for example. And we'll call this one, username. And then you can say in description, enter your email. And you can say in this one, enter a username. We'll give those periods just to make them nice. Task variables are inputs that people are going to need to put into your task before they run it. So sometimes you want to, for example, if you're going to use our X scraper tasks and you want to scrape X, you're going to need access to someone's X account. And so you'll need to make sure that you put in all the variables and stuff like that to get that, such as email, password, and phone verification. I do want to mention that these task variables are secure and they stay on the user's device. So you as a node operator are never going to get access to these task variables unless you specifically try and pull them in, which would be a big party foul. If you do that, you're not going to get any submission. You're not going to be eligible for a submission. The idea is that these are always secret and they stay locally on the device. Next up, there's the tag. This one says witness, which is kind of just a funny meme, but what I would recommend doing is typing in future of blockchain here. Just so that when your task goes into production and it shows up in the node, we all know where it's coming from. The next one is your environment. You're going to start off with test and then you're going to move to production when you're ready. And then if you're updating your task, you'll use these two fields here too. You'll put in a migration description, which is basically the update, log, what you did, what was the update. And then you'll put in the old task ID and the system will actually give you a new task ID. So essentially what's happening when you update your task is really a migration. We take your old task and we update it with your new task and we give you a new task ID and we shut down your old one. The next thing you're going to want to know about is the source folder. So the source folder is basically where everything you're going to need to do lives. All this extra stuff might seem really overwhelming and you just don't have to deal with it. All you need to do is come into the task folder and you'll actually be able to get going. So here in the setup.js, this is all the stuff that's going to execute before the task starts. Usually what I recommend doing here is always saying, I am working, something like this, just so that because every time you press pause and play on your task, every time a round restarts, it's always, every time you start and stop the task, it's always going to say this. So it's just a really useful debugging tool. Next up is your task, and this is going to run in that round-based system. Basically, everything you want to do should go inside of this function. Outside of the try statement, I would recommend instantiating your variables. For example, const name equals Avi. Inside of this try statement is what you want. You just want to execute the whole task. You might notice that there's a namespace wrapper. It should be available in the docs. I'll also try and post this in Discord now that I'm thinking about it. These are all the useful functions that you can use with Koii. So Koii's nodes default come with a little database. It's a key value database. So it's really easy to just use store set or store get. And when you're store setting, you want to give a key and a pair. And when you're store getting, you just need that key. So what we'll do is we will console.log this. So all we're doing is store setting the value hello world, and then we're going to console.log that value in our task. Now, of course, you can do anything you want. You can launch Puppeteer, you can get all the node packages that you want, you can do heavy mathematical computations, you can open up web browsers, you can make hosting solutions, you can make a React website. Basically anything you want to do, you can do in here. Anything that's a JavaScript, you can do in here. So Next.js is totally valid. Of course, we're using Node.js. By default, this is an Express server, and we'll get to that in a sec. So you have a lot of power. Something that I'll note right now is that if you want to test things out, you can go to localhost, and the port number is 30017, and then you want to type in tasks, and then your task ID here, and then the endpoint that you choose, maybe app, for example. Alternatively, if you're using Next.js, you actually can just use the localhost and the app. Either one is totally valid. Play around with both, and you'll find that this localhost is probably going to be more related to a backend if you're using Next, and this one will be more appropriate for accessing front-end kind of stuff. So if you're just doing post gets, this is where you want to go. If you're trying to load like a Next.js React page, you probably want to try this one. Great. So now what we've done is we've kind of simulated a small little task. I actually, you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to store my name just to make this a more legitimate example. Here in submission, what you're going to see is that this is what gets submitted to the chain. So if the task is just the work, you actually need to upload all the work or the result of the work that you do. So what we're going to console log here is making a submission for the round. And all we're going to do is we're going to return to the submission function, store get, and that value should be Avi, my name. Otherwise, we're going to just report an error. Really simple stuff. It's not too complex, but you can get as complex as you'd like with it. Then we have our audit. What we want to make sure in our audit is that the submission equals Avi. If it equals Avi, then we're all good. In your audit, you can actually put in any algorithm you want, or you can just check for static values, or you can just check that the work has actually been submitted. You can basically put in anything you want in here. It's really, really diverse, really, really robust. Next, we have the distribution. I probably would recommend not messing around with this too much. It's set up for you by default, basically to say, if the audit passes, reward the user. And if the audit fails, slash the user. What slashing means is we're just going to slash some of their stake out. And if they lose all their stake or they lose a certain amount of stake, then they're not going to be able to participate in your task anymore. So probably leave this as default. But if you really want to dive into it and get really, really complex with it, I would love to chat more about that in the Discord. Okay, so we'll come back to our roots here. And as you can see, I've made a bunch of example roots just basically to show you, but they're all just copy pastes. Basically, what you want is an app.get. You have the value in there, your request and your response. And basically, if we went to this endpoint, we would get our value and we'd return the value as response. But if you wanted to make more, you can make a home page, a create an account page, a dashboard page, a create page, you can make slugs. You basically do whatever you want here. Lastly, there's the index. The index page is basically just going to initialize all of your tools. You might be pretty familiar with this. I don't recommend changing this if you're not 100% confident with what you're doing. But if you are confident with what you're doing, then this is the place to actually adjust the workflow that's happening here in the task. Okay, one last thing before we give a shot at deploying this task, and that's going to be this .env.developer.example file folder. I'll just zoom out a bit so you can see. This is for testing your task. So what you want to do is change this just to .env. That's almost all you need to do. The other thing is we're going to want to replace this with our task ID so that we can simulate running the task. Oh, we also probably want to get the staking wallet if we want IPFS to work. You can find out how to get that staking wallet in the EZSandbox. For this lesson, I'm not going to grab this, but it's really, really easy to do, and I'm more than happy to help you do it, in Discord. Okay, so that's basically all you really need to do to have a task, which is really, really cool. We've done this in about 20 minutes, and I've been explaining a lot of it. So what we want to do now is we want to deploy our task. So again, if you want to go to the EZSandbox, and maybe I'll show you that just to make things easy for you guys. You'll go to the EZSandbox here, start the lessons, go to your quick start intro, and you go to the deployment markdown. And it's going to give you all the things that you need to do. So first we're going to run yarn, but we've already done that. So then we're going to yarn webpack, and that's going to create the executable for the task. So we're just going to let that run. Should be really, really quick. In the meantime, we're going to grab the next line, which is our create task CLI tool. We do have a task extension. I probably wouldn't recommend using it just because it has a completely different workflow. But if you find the task extension and how to use it on our YouTube and stuff, feel free to give it a shot. It's currently in testing. It has a lot of bugs. We tried to use it at our last hackathon and we found that it gave some people trouble. So I really recommend using the CLI tool. So all you're going to need to do is paste, that's npx @_Koii /create task CLI @latest, and you'll just press enter. And then we're going to click deploy task. We webpacked our task already. We can actually just press enter here. We're going to use our wallet there. We're going to use the Koii storage SDK. I'm just going to manually input a wallet here just to ensure things work. Great. So this is what the process should actually look like. It'll say that the CIDs were made, the metadata was made, and then your account will be deducted the appropriate rent. We'll just press yes. It's going to send a transaction to the chain, and you're going to get this fancy task ID. So what you'll do is you'll press copy on this. We'll go into our desktop node and we'll click this plus button. In the advanced section, we'll paste in the task, and we're just going to wait for it to load the metadata. We'll notice that it's saying loading task metadata. We use the fire token, and so it's asking us for 0.1. Just going to wait until that loads the metadata. Just one sec here. Perfect. So we ask for an email. We can put in a test variable here. Also ask for a username. We'll put in another test variable. This is just going to be converted to strings, so you don't really need to worry too much about what you're doing here. It's going to say this task isn't verified, so run with caution, but you made the task, so hopefully you're confident in running it. And we're just going to give it a few seconds more to actually load in. I believe this should be faster on your guys' computers. I'm just on Thailand Wi-Fi, and it's unfortunately not working too great for me. But no worries, we will get through this process. It seems like it's working pretty adequately now. This might be a good time to cut. Oh, amazing. Never mind. I spoke too soon. Okay, now we're successfully running the task, and we can head over to our node. We can scroll all the way down to the bottom. And boom, future of blockchain task shows up. So we're going to pause this for just a sec. Just going to stop running the task. It'll run by default. We're going to open up VS Code one more time. And now we're going to run yarn prod-debug. Just going to give this a sec to load up. This should be faster. As you can see, it's just building and boom. Oh, application has crashed. Why? Oh, make sure you have the correct task ID in your end file. This is actually a really good thing to show you guys. You can go back in here and copy the task ID. Go into VS Code, go to your end file, and just make sure that we're putting in the right task ID here. Now we're going to try running yarn prod debug again. Amazing. This time it's actually working properly. So let's open up our node and press play on our task. Oh, it's already running for us, which is great. Chromium wants some permissions, which is totally good by me. And boom, we have our IAM working. We have our custom setup. And, oopsies, sorry, let's open up our task again. And let's open up these logs. Sorry, my computer's running really slowly right now. Clearly I've done something wrong. But Boom, amazing, it's working. Remember how in the task we store setted my name, which is Avi, and we just console pasted it right here. So this is how we know that the task is working. Amazing. Now we have a task that's going. So all you have to do is go back into your task, and you can actually just start editing from here. I'll show you what I mean. You don't even need to stop running task. You don't even need to stop running task.debug, prod.debug. You can actually live edit right here. So for example, let's change the name from Avi to Alex from Koii. Oh, sorry. Uh, I'm moving too quickly through a laggy computer, but you'll notice that it actually starts rebuilding and then it relaunches. So we're just going to pause this task again. We're going to play it again. I did make the round time short, so hopefully this works. If we go back to our output logs, I want to know what we're going to do to make this a little faster. So typically we'll actually have to wait through the entire round time, but just to prove to you that prod debug is doing stuff, we're just going to write in to this Alex from Koii right at the end of the I am working. And hopefully actually we'll see it live happen right here in the console instead. Setting up the express, setting up the server. It is listening on this port. Now we want to go back into the node. And we just want to press pause and then play again. Then we can go to our output logs. Open up the task. And boom, I am working Alex from Koii.
Mohammed has asked in the questions tab, it'd be really useful if you could show an example of a task that's like already created to give people a better idea of what's possible to build and like some potential project ideas. Would you be able to show like a pre-built task?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a few questions in the chat, actually. So there's one from a hacker who's asked pretty much like, can you explain a bit more about what running a Koii node means? Like, does it mean that stuff is running on your own computer, and what does that mean for, like, is it safe? Does it use sort of memory? Like, what does it mean to run a Koii node?
For sure, yeah. So running the Koii node basically means that we're going to take advantage of a bunch of your compute resources. So that would be RAM, your GPU, your CPU, your networking capabilities. So like if you have a fiber optic cable internet, for example, that might give you a boost. We basically can do anything and everything that your computer can do, and we can deliver that across the cloud. The safety of that is sort of based off your own firewall, but largely very safe. Firstly, all the tasks on Koii, you can always inspect their code and the executable. So it's all open source. But at the same time, if you see about like 1,000, 2,000 people running the task, you can always go into the Discord and ask them about it. And for the most part, those tasks are safe. Usually what we'll do to get a new task in the ecosystem is we'll build up a lot of sort of messaging around it, just so that people know kind of what's going on. You can actually also go to Koii.network and you can go to the ocean. And here you'll actually be able to find a lot more information about all the projects that are running on Koii if it loads, because there we go. You'll be able to find a lot more information about all the projects running on Koii here. So the safety wise is that it's actually protected at the application layer. So whenever you're putting a secret into the machine, that secret is stored in a safe place with process.env. Unless you try and maliciously grab that, which of course we would flag in our system, then it won't go through. You'll notice that these tasks say verified in front of me on the screen here. If it says non-verified, just make sure that you probably either don't run it or you look at the code first. And then because it's protected at the application layer, that means nothing that this code can do can actually get past or beyond the Koii desktop node itself.
Okay, cool. Let's see, we don't have that long. There was another question from Tana. They've said, what does it mean to fail a task?
Sure. So some people can, some people can be malicious actors, and some people can simply not have the resources. So let's say you're trying to run an AI and you have 10-minute window to get something done. Sometimes some computers, or especially some old phones, just really aren't cut to the task, and so they won't actually get the job done in time. They'll just try and load for a really long time, and the task will say, all right, next, and they won't have anything to submit. That'd be a failure. On the other hand, some people do try and hack into their node, and they try and fake a result. They try and pass you data that seems legitimate, but it's not, and they just try and reap the reward. So we want to make sure that our audits are robust enough to fail those people.
Okay, nice. So we will start wrapping up, but if people have questions as they're sort of starting to run Koii nodes, how can they get in contact with you? What's the best way?
Find me in the Encode Discord, open up threads, and I will be there. We also have the Koii Discord, and I'm super active there as well. Although I will mention that the noise level is a lot lower in the Encode Discord, so I'll definitely be able to get to you faster. And make sure that you're pinging me. Don't be afraid to just @Avi_Koii as much as you want. Cheers.